AutoLine Daily is brought to you by Borg Warner, feel good about driving. Bridgestone, your journey, our passion. Dow Automotive Systems, improving durability and increasing design flexibility with Betamate structural adhesives at dowbetamate.com. And by the 2013 Hyundai Sonata. Learn more at HyundaiSonata.com.
Welcome to AutoLine Daily. Later on in the show, we'll be asking you about this week's poll. But before we get to that, let's cover the news. In a move that caught most industry observers by surprise, General Motors hired away the top marketing executive from Volkswagen of America. Tim Mahoney will run all of GM's global marketing operations, as well as serve as Chief Marketing Officer for Chevrolet on a global basis. He will report to Alan Beatty, who's the interim Global Chief Marketing Officer at GM. AutoLine viewers will remember that I interviewed Tim Mahoney during our live webcast of the LA Auto Show when he was still at VW. Prior to that, he also worked at Porsche and at Subaru. This is a great move for GM and for Chevrolet because Mahoney has a proven track record with German and Japanese brands, which are exactly who GM's going to have to go fight to regain market share. VW's been on a tear in the American market lately, and I've got to believe that GM hopes Mahoney can replicate that momentum at Chevrolet. The U.S. Treasury Department is selling off its remaining shares in General Motors. So far, it sold at least 5.4 million shares and netted over $156 million in January. And one of the people who bought that stock was GM CEO Dan Akerson. He purchased 25,000 shares for just over $660,000, which brings his total GM stock ownership to nearly 300,000 shares. Akerson also wants a raise, a 20% raise to $11 million. The Detroit News reports that the company's looking to pay its top 25 executives $82 million in 2013. But GM must get approval from the Treasury Department since the government still controls a stake in the company. The NISMO brand, which was founded in 1984, has been well known in the world of motorsports for its styling, handling, and performance. Now the company is moving into a new era as it becomes Nissan's exclusive performance and motorsports brand. NISMO will create a range of affordable performance models from small cars to sports cars. First comes the Juke Nismo, which will come to the U.S. in the spring. Second will be a revised 370Z Nismo for this summer, and then Nissan's flagship sports car, the GTR. Production will begin at Nismo's new headquarters and development center in Yokohama, Japan. Volkswagen's been in the news over the last few days with the announcement of new hybrid drive vehicles like the XL1 and the Up Hybrid. So why not add another to the list? Well, that's exactly what the German automaker has done. It announced a plug-in hybrid version of the Golf that will share the same powertrain as the Audi A3 e-tron. A 1.4-liter turbo gas engine and a 101 horsepower electric motor are mated to a 6-speed automatic. While no pictures have been released yet, we'll get to see it next week at the Geneva Motor Show. Okay, it's time for this week's poll. With all the diesels that are coming into the U.S. this year, we were wondering, will they eventually become more popular than hybrids? So that's this week's question. By 2020, which powertrain do you expect to sell better in the U.S.? Diesels or hybrids? And we mean strong hybrids, like the Toyota Prius, not a weak hybrid that just adds a little bit of electric boost, like the Chevrolet Malibu Eco. To vote, just visit Autoline.tv and click the link under today's show notes. And you can also get your friends and family to participate by sending them the link below the poll as well. Last year, General Motors was rated as the largest car company in the world. This year, it's fallen to third place. In fact, I'll show you how the top car companies stack up against each other right after this.
Why?
Because plants need water to grow.
Because baseball's played in the summer.
Oxygen and hydrogen.
Because I forgot to get a receipt.
Why?
Why not?
Why?
Why don't you go ask your dad?
Do Sonata drivers know something you don't? The Sonata from Hyundai.
There's a lot of jockeying amongst the biggest car companies in the world. They all want to get bigger in the belief that this will give them the economy of scale they need to have the lowest costs and the highest profits. So how do they stack up against each other? Let's take a look. When it comes to who sold the most cars, trucks, and buses last year, then Toyota takes the top spot with a 400,000 unit lead over Volkswagen. What makes Toyota's performance all the more impressive is that all Japanese automakers suffered lower sales in China last year when consumers boycotted their cars because of a dispute between China and Japan over some islands. VW motored past GM to take the second spot, and then there's a big drop-off to Nissan Renault. And then look at this. Hyundai Kia have now surpassed the Ford Motor Company in global sales, as well as Fiat Chrysler and Honda. Another way to rank the car companies is by the amount of revenue or money that they take in. And guess what? Toyota is still at the top of the list, or at least it likely will be. Japanese automakers operate on a fiscal year that concludes at the end of March, so this revenue number is what Toyota says it will hit. But in my experience, when Toyota says it's going to hit a number, it hits it. So I'll take them at their word. VW is in second place, but looky here, Nissan Renault pulled in more money than General Motors. Now that is quite unexpected. Then come Ford, Honda, and Fiat. Amazingly, the Hyundai Group is way behind the other big companies. Presumably, Hyundai does not pull in as much money because it sells so many lower-priced cars, especially in Asia. And if we rank the automakers by their net profit, then once again, Toyota is at the top of the list with more than $10 billion dropping to the bottom line. Then there's a big drop-off to VW and Hyundai Kia, but the Hyundai numbers are extremely impressive considering how small its revenue number is. Hyundai has the highest corporate profit margins of all the major companies, and by a wide margin. Ford is solidly ahead of GM, and Honda is hot on GM's heels, and Fiat trails the rest mainly because of its problems in Europe. When you look at all these rankings, it's clear Toyota is the biggest car company in the world, and we also have learned that the Hyundai Group is growing faster than all of the rest. I got all this information out of each company's financial earnings, press releases, and media reports. I made certain assumptions on currency exchanges when these were not provided by the companies. I also adjusted the Japanese numbers to account for their different fiscal year. So when the Japanese post their final figures, these numbers could change a little bit, but I don't think they'll change any of these rankings. And I hope you find these rankings as interesting as I do, because there's some real surprises here. Anyway, that brings us to the end of today's report. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.